My name's Trevor Steinhauser, born and raised in northern Kentucky, right across the river from Cincinnati. Had a very good childhood. Both parents, two older siblings, brother 7 years older, sister 5 years older. So life was excellent. But one of the things happened very early on in my life was I fell down a flight of wooden stairs when I was 18 months old. Fractured my skull. Mom said my head swelled up like a watermelon. And so I think that set the tone for my mental health struggles throughout my life. And I would say that those started about the age of 6, at least when I can start remembering struggles that I had. And it was hyperactivity. I was all over the place all the time. And I would say that my addictive behaviors started right around then too, which was anything that felt good to me, I never wanted it to end. Spending the night out, playing sports, hanging out with my buddies, I always wanted more. I never wanted it to end. So, struggled academically, was always behind my peers in school, which, that's where the ADD came in, and it was the truest form of that term, because I just could not retain the information. I'm the guy that gets to the top of the left side of the page when I'm reading and get to the bottom and I wonder what the heck I just read. So always struggled in that regard. But with all of that being said, I was happy. Woke up every day in a good mood. Was a fun center of attention. Always wanted people to have as much fun as I was having, and parents were very involved. No neglect, no abuse, none of that stuff. It was almost like the Brady Bunch, to be honest with you. Successful family, parents had money, didn't want for anything, which in hindsight probably hurt me as much as it helped me, I guess, as far as work ethic and things like that. But I would say around 7 or 8, I had another concussion, and would go on to have numerous concussions. And this is not sports. This is just being a boy, falling off jungle gyms and falling off of roofs and falling off my bike and whatever. I mean, tons of stitches in my head, a bunch of concussions, and these just snowballed off of that first big one when I was a baby, to where it was, even though I was happy, I had a lot of self-esteem issues early on, and that those continued forever, which was, why am I like this? Why am I thinking the way that I'm thinking? These just crazy thoughts. Probably 7, 8, 9, I would have night terrors. I would have panic attacks, what I know now to be panic attacks, every night. So the day was good, but I was petrified to go to sleep because I knew that I would get these panic attacks. And it came to me as a heavy pressure on my chest and just a banging in my ears. I mean, it was madness. Scared me. And it was every night. And looking back on it, I periodically ask my mom if she ever remembers any sort of issues around that time. And she said, this was recently, that she remembers that I would wake up every night screaming. And it was at that same time. So I think for 3 or 4 years, when I was having these panic attacks, I would wake up with night terrors as well, whether they were bad dreams or whatever it was. But that really kicked me down a notch on my level of sanity and what young kid should go through that and why it was happening. I didn't understand, but it really hurt my self-esteem because I thought I was different than everybody else. So I took a lot of my energy on making sure that people liked me, because I know I certainly didn't like me because I thought I was strange and different and why am I crazy and all those sorts of things. So that, I became a people pleaser, never said no to anybody, said yes to whatever it was. And so we go on to have more concussions, in my adolescence, 12, 13, 14. And my bell's getting rung once a year. I'm just getting, and I can't recover. So school's bad. Personal life is, I'm the social king of everything. I'm in the middle of the mix, but I'm overcompensating because I am not happy with who I am, so I'm going to make sure that everybody knows that I'm okay, which is being the center of attention, being the crazy one, the one making everybody laugh, the one doing stupid stuff. And so 15 hits, and I don't remember exactly the first time that I smoked pot, but that 15 was the age. And drank alcohol, same age, pretty close together. And that, like a lot of us, it worked. It allowed me to escape. It allowed me to not feel what I was feeling. It allowed me to be uninhibited. And I liked it. From the very, very beginning, I liked it. And I would say that marijuana was most probably more my go-to than anything else. And by the time I'm 16 or 17, I'm smoking pot a lot because I played soccer, decent, could have been a lot better if I wasn't doing all that stuff. But falling behind academically, I'm in math courses that I'm taking with kids that are younger than me because I can't hack it, I can't pass. So I'm basically giving up on school. I'm no good at it, so I was like, I took to this marijuana thing big time. So I started smoking a bunch. By the time I'm a junior in high school, I'm smoking before school, and once the bell rings at 3 o'clock, I'm driving around with my buddies, we're getting high, going home, I'm smoking cigarettes, and my parents, I don't know, my parents never said anything. But I know they had to have smelled, had to have reeked, putting cologne on and, just trying to cover it up. But that continued throughout my high school career. And just partying as hard as I possibly could, and always I was always the one that was trying to make sure that people were turning it up as much as I was, to make sure that they were having as much fun as I was. Just relentless, and this is where that ADD thing is. I just would not shut it down. I would want to make sure, if you asked me to smoke pot at, 3 o'clock on a Sunday, I'm there, without question. Always took any opportunity to check out of my reality, I guess you could say. Went to college, and that continued. I'm taking, I only got into one school. Only one school would take me because my grades were just not where they needed to be to go to any decent school. So I went to a community college and partied. That was it. That's all I did. And that's where I saw cocaine for the first time. I was actually walked into a dorm room, and my best friend has his face over a pile of cocaine, and I'm thinking to myself, what is this guy doing? He's gonna die. And so I went downstairs and thinking, how am I going to get him out of this room? Petrified, because with all that being said, I'm this scared little kid. I'm a scared, inhibited, gullible little kid who's always been scared of everything in his entire life. So anyway, I went back up there, and he's like, come on, man, just relax. It's not going to kill you. So I did it. I snorted cocaine at 18, and I liked it. I mean, it was one of those things. It was just another vehicle for me to check out and not be myself and act a fool and do crazy stuff. So I would smoke weed whenever anybody had it. I mean, I'm sure I bought it, and did coke when anybody had it. So I'm doing all this stuff. Grades are just in the tank, and but my family has a third generation family business manufacturing company, and we had always kind of been groomed without saying it directly that this is what you guys are going to do when you grow up. So I always had this, I just used it as a crutch. I'm like, well, I'm no good at anything, but I got this, I know I got a job, so I'm just going to ride this thing out and, party hardy. And that's what I did. I had a seizure and probably 2 concussions while I was in college. So I just cannot get away from these head injuries. And the last one I had was bad. I mean, it was, got thrown on the ground in the middle of January. I'll never forget it. I jumped on my buddy's back, and he just threw me off. And I smacked my head on the ground, frozen ground, and I was rocked. My bell was rung big time. And this just continues the confusion gets scattered. I start having, I had my first bout of depression while I was in college. That's when I knew the difference between anxiety and depression. I had always had anxiety. I was always worried about the unknown, worried about what was going to happen to me. But when I got this depression, I realized that there is absolutely a difference. And it was just a lonely, sad, scared existence. And fortunately, I was able to see a psychiatrist, get on some medication, and took care of that pretty quick. It got me out of that rut. But I would always, from then on, would always go in and out of depressions. Dabbled with all kinds of other drugs, and mushrooms, acid, meth. Tried all those things, but nothing ever stuck. But I would continue this rampage throughout my college career, graduate with a pretty poor GPA, but again, I got this job, right? And so I go to work for our family business, which I never knew. I wanted to be on Saturday Night Live. Like the moment that I saw Chris Farley back in the late 80s on Saturday Night Live, I knew that's what I wanted to do, because I was always acting. I was in choir, I was in show choir, I was in all of the stuff. I loved to act. Even in my just daily life, I would tell these tall tales to my mom and just be completely acting. But I told my dad that. I said, I want to go give this Hollywood thing a shot. I want to act. And he said, yeah, it's a little far-fetched. And not out of malice or anything like that. That just was his response. And me being the gullible kid that I am, I believed him. And I said, you know what? He's right. There's no way I could do something like that. So I begrudgingly joined our family business. And right from the start, he wanted me to be in sales. Sales petrified me still to this day. It gives me goosebumps thinking about having to cold call somebody. It makes me sick. So that was my job, but I didn't do it. And we would carve out positions for me, marketing and estimating, and I would do I tried all these things, but nothing ever stuck because I just am not a numbers, spreadsheet, business type person. I'm a, culture, let's take care of everybody, make sure everybody's okay, get involved in their lives, making sure everybody's okay. That's what I did, but that's not a tangible thing. So we would just go through and muddle around and try and find something that worked, and I basically just floated around and was not happy. So I graduated 2001, met my future wife right around that time, and I was hanging out at that time with a negative, a group of people where the energy was negative. And I'd always been a super positive person, but you are who you hang out with, you know? So I started becoming this negative, mean, nasty person, and then I'm pouring drugs and alcohol on top of it, so I was just a tyrant. And she took a lot of that. You know, you're with the ones you love more than anybody, and they get to unfortunately see all the bad behaviors and nuances that come with being with somebody 24 hours a day, you know. So that happened, and I was not a good dude. I was not a nice person, and I was unhappy with my job. I didn't think I fit. Didn't think I was doing my ancestors any justice, you know. And so the one good thing about working in the family business is I got to work with my sister, my brother, and my dad. My dad and I were as tight as you could possibly be. I mean, he was my best friend. And so from 2001 to 2005, I just kind of muddle through. And so February 2005, we noticed that our dad was starting to slow down cognitively. He was delayed in his speech, delayed in his responses. We're like, man, what's going on? And so turns out he had a brain tumor. So we finally took him to the doctor where they found this brain tumor, and he was there one day and gone the next. He was in surgery and basically incapacitated. So one of the main reasons that's keeping me there and keeping me functioning is my dad. And now he's gone. And he's, basically has a bunch of different surgeries, and they ended up getting the cancer, but it came back and killed him. We found that June of 05, he died August of 06. So that devastated me. Devastated our whole family, but for me, that was a straw that broke the camel's back in the way of me kind of giving up on everything. Because he was going to stay and help groom my brother, sister, and I to take over the business. And so anyway, I went off the deep end, partying, bad behaviors of all kinds. Kind of just didn't give a rat's anymore, And so my sister and I, at that same moment, our brother disowns my sister and I. This is simultaneously almost the moment that our dad died. So lose my dad, my mom's a mess, my brother disowns my sister and I are kind of left there, and we got to take over this company. And so we did. We bought it from our mother, and so now I'm relegated to the fact that this is my life, and I was doing it for him and for the pictures on the wall of my great-grandparents and grandparents, but I was not happy. I was not happy. And so I underperformed. And so the same year my dad, we found out that he gets sick. It's our 100th year in business. I'm getting married. He gets sick. And so the stress level is through the roof. And so that stress level carried over into him passing away, to us buying the business, to our brother kind of ixnaying us from the family, or from his life at least. And so depression I went into a massive depression and didn't know, kind of tried to navigate it myself. And I had no figure in my life to help straighten me out and help see how I was doing, or all the stuff my dad was doing. I no longer had that. So we have a child in 2007, our first daughter, which a first-time father should be over the moon, which I was in some respects. In some respects, I could not climb out of this depression that I was in. Now, I'm not doing myself any favors by going out and partying and doing the same stuff I had done forever. But that was the case, and I was just floating through life. Have another daughter, 2 years later, same thing. So mad at myself at why I can't get out of my own way and be super happy with just what I have. Like content, I could never be content. It was, the fear of missing out, or I don't know what it was, but there was something impeding me from being happy and content with what I had, which was a pretty good gig, to be honest with you. But it's not what I wanted. It's not what I chose. It was something that was chosen for me, really. Even though I'm a grown man and I can make my own decisions, I mean, this is just the story. We go through a couple of miscarriages, trying to have our third child. And so what that does to the mother, we'll never know as men, but I was not there for my wife. I was just period and finish, was not there. I would say we have two healthy kids, let's kind of pick our boots up, and try again. But that's not how it works. When you lose a child, you have to have a procedure, because it was far along. It was detrimental, and I was just flat out not there for her. And so that caused trouble. And so we ended up, after that, those struggles, we ended up getting pregnant again. And my wife thought it was we didn't find out with any of our kids, but she thought she saw the ultrasound, and she thought that she accidentally saw and that it was a girl, and I'm sorry, whatever. So turns out it's a boy. Miracle. I'm like just crazy excited. Name him after my dad. And so you would think that this would be like the thing to snap me out of what I'm going through. It doesn't. I'm still doing the same thing, super unhappy. When I'm home, I'm in the basement, in the dark, just depressed. And so 2014, I am out with a friend, and I inquire about if he can get any cocaine. And he did. And we did it, and we went, just like any other time. When it was done, it was, when it was all gone, it was over. Well, I talked to this guy again about a week later. It was a split-second decision in my mind, thinking, I wonder if we can do that again. That was pretty fun. Did it again, and that pattern started of getting it every couple weekends. And so finally, I got the name of the guy who was selling it directly. And the first time I met him, wherever we met, he came in and he said, I'm not prepared. I don't know what you want or whatever. So we'll just kind of figure it out. And he pulls this gallon Ziploc bag out of his pants, and it is just full of just these giant boulders of cocaine. Never seen so much. It was something out of a movie. It was crazy. And he said to me, I'm always around. Call me anytime, text me anytime. I will never not have this for you. And that's all he needed to say to me. And I remember that day when he left, I thought to myself, this could become a problem. And it did. So that's, a little bit here and there becomes a little bit 3 times a week, 4 times a week, then I'm buying more, and it just turned into a straight up addiction. Meanwhile, my sister and I own a company with 35 employees, and I'm starting to do it at work. And telling people to do the right thing and going, shutting my office door and doing coke the entire day. It was not good. And so it goes from becoming fun to becoming a living hell. It is, I had a job, but being a drug addict is a job. I got to wake up, I got to know that I got enough to get me through the first part of the day. I got to make sure I got enough to get me home, and I got to make sure I got enough to do all, because I do it all night. You know, at the end of this, I was doing it all day long, from the time I woke up to the time I went to sleep. Any waking second, I was doing it. And so it is a grind to make sure you got all your ducks in a row. Who am I lying to today? Who did I steal from? You know, all these things. And so it was a miserable existence, depressed, don't like what I'm doing. I've got a family, 6, 4, and a baby, and I'm out here partying my butt off. It made no sense, and I was so mad at myself at what kind of piece of garbage could do this and look himself in the mirror in the morning. I couldn't reconcile it, but yet I continue to do it because now I am fully addicted. So all of a sudden, I had a couple places that I did it. You know, I played golf at this place, and that's where I would set up. I would set up at work, and my mom was gone for 6 months in Florida, so I would be at her place. And so I would just kind of, you know, I've had these spots, but people started seeing my behavior sort of, you know, I think I'm pretty tricky and pretty slick. In the beginning, I probably was, but then after a while, it was probably blatantly obvious that I had some issues because there were patterns involved in meeting people and whatever. So a couple people started talking to each other and were like, this dude is struggling. We got to get him some help. So two friends and my sister, which I did not know, started seeing a therapist to figure out how to do an intervention with me, which, you know, they're taking time out of their day. I think they met with this guy 5 or 6 times before they approached me. So there was an event where there were a lot of people around, 100 plus, and I lose my mind. I go into a complete blackout, throwing stuff, kicking doors, and just lose it. And one of these friends that had been trying to help me, or leading up to, that became the night where I was first approached, which was I was thrown against the wall. Dude, I know what's going on. We got to get you help. And at that point, I wanted help. I mean, I was done. This was a year, probably a year and 5 months, something like that, almost a year and a half, that I've been doing this charade of hard cocaine use. And I was tired. I didn't want to do it anymore. I was scared. I knew that I was addicted, and I didn't know what I was going to do about it. So this was like a godsend. But I was also scared to face the music too. So I bobbed and weaved and dodged those people for about 2 months. And at this point, I still don't know. I think it's just my 2 friends. I didn't know that they contacted my sister. So they finally pinned me down and say, okay, we're going to go see this dude, this therapist, because we got to get you straightened out. So we went. I put up no fight. I was in no denial. I knew I had a huge problem, but I didn't fight at all. I was ready. I mean, I wanted help. I didn't know what help looked like, but I wanted help. So we get in this room and we talk about it, and we start talking about rehab and like going away somewhere. And I'm thinking, our family's never dealt with this, but I certainly don't want to go away somewhere. So I guess in the back of my addict mind, I'm starting to spin my wheels around, okay, well, how am I going to keep from going somewhere or making like a rash decision? So I said, let me see this guy twice a week, and we'll just do it ourselves. Put a tourniquet on ourselves, because our company has we have an outside board of directors. We got 3 guys, you know, that we answer to that are responsible for the company. So we decided that we're not going to raise the flag. We're going to put a tourniquet on this. I'm going to see this guy twice a week. And that's what I did. I was sober. I was happy. I was seeing this guy for probably 6 weeks. And then I started to notice this guy, he was an older gentleman. But he started asking me questions at every session that he had asked me at the end of the previous session, as if we had never even met the previous time. And I'm thinking, oh gosh, this would be a perfect opportunity for me to relapse and go out and start using it again, because he would never know. He'd never know what we're talking about. So that's what I did. So I relapsed. Obviously, I don't tell my sister and those two friends, but I start coming in to these sessions high, saying, man, I feel great. This recovery is something else. Sobriety is really all it's cracked up to be, and I feel wonderful. Well, I'm lying through my teeth because I'm getting high before I go in there. And with a lot of people who relapse, I started doing as much as I was doing prior. And so I was doing just copious amounts of cocaine. It was crazy. And I started going crazy. I went into psychosis. And what I mean by that is at night, I would bear crawl around my house, up the steps, around, and I'd go from one window to the other, and I would just stare at the window because I was convinced that there was cops. Because I was doing so much, it was in my brain, and it was doing something with my optical nerve or something, that I would see lights all the time. So I would get to a point where I would just lay there, and I would look up, and I would see these lights on the ceiling. Well, to me, that's helicopters. To me, that's the cops. To me, somebody's going to swing in through the window. And so I went crazy. There was a period of about 3 weeks where I was absolutely outside of my mind. And so I'm sitting in my basement one night, and I am looking at myself, and I don't recognize who's in the mirror. I mean, my eyes are as bloodshot and yellow, jaundice. My body's gurgling. Barely eating anything at all. Lost probably 30 pounds. And I mean, I could just touch my side, and my liver, kidneys, or whatever's over there was inflamed. I mean, I was dying. I was killing myself. That's what I was doing. And I'm crying, I'm looking in the mirror, and I'm asking God, and I'm asking my dad, I'm asking anybody who could possibly listen to me for help. Because I know now that I am out of control, and I don't know what I'm going to do. Except if this continues, I'm going to die. Because my heart is just about to explode because I can't stop. I cannot stop doing it. I'm just all the time, every waking moment. I would do some, and then I would do more. I mean, I couldn't even get it in my nose anymore. I was just, so it was really, really bad. So the next day, I'm sitting in my office, and I'm notoriously known throughout the network of friends and family for not answering my phone. For my mom, for my sister, for all my buddies. I just don't like talking on the phone, so I don't answer the phone. Well, this number calls that I don't recognize, and 99 times out of 100, I would not answer that phone call. But for some reason, I picked it up, and it was an agent with the DEA. And so, scariest moment of my life, and I'm still in my addicted mind trying to figure out how I can get out of this. I know why they're calling. And I said, what are you calling me for? He said, sir, we don't just go through the phone book and call people. We need to talk to you. Well, it turns out they arrested the person who was selling to me, who was a pretty legit deal. And I was seeing that, and there was video surveillance involved. So I was seeing this person 3 times a week. I had a big SUV, so I think they thought I was helping him distribute or whatever. Well, the next day I'm leaving for a business trip to Colorado for 5 days. And I tell him that. I said, I got to go on this business trip. They said, well, the moment that the wheels touch the ground, we need to see you. Never should have gone on the trip. I was an absolute basket case the entire time. Have my last drink. And that's another thing, is I'm talking a lot about cocaine. Alcohol was my problem. I would, binge drink, just like you do, just like people do, but that uninhibited me to do other things. I never would have gone looking for cocaine that night had I not been drinking. So alcohol was 100% the problem. Cocaine, marijuana, all the other stuff's a byproduct of the alcohol. So anyway, I have my last drink out in Colorado, October 9th, 2015. That's my sobriety date. And I told him that I was getting home Tuesday. No clue. I was getting home on Sunday. But I guess I wanted a day of cushion in there to figure out my plan. So I get home Sunday, I'm so scared. Monday morning I call, I say, can I just come down there now? So I drive downtown, go up into the federal building with the DEA and the FBI and all this, and I'm rolling into the lion's den here. But before I go in, I'm sitting in this parking garage and I say to myself, okay, I got three choices. I can back out of here, continue the charade for as long as it lasts, act like nothing's happening, and go down in a blaze of glory. Bad decision. I can go in there and lie and act a fool and try and protect this dude and try and protect me or whatever. Bad decision. Or I can go in there and just be completely honest. And that, thank the Lord, is what I chose to do. So I get in there and I go into this conference room with probably 20 chairs. It was a huge table. And I sit on this side, and in file 6 federal agents, and they sit across from me. Don't even think about having an attorney. Didn't even cross my mind to have an attorney. Flips his wallet over, reads me my rights. They start peppering me with questions, and I am losing it, thinking, what have I got myself into? So after about 10 or 12 minutes, I break down. I start crying. I'm like, guys, I am a husband, I'm a father, I'm a business owner, and I just have a raging drug problem, and I need help. And I think they saw that. I think they saw that I wasn't savvy enough to be a drug dealer, much less a good drug user. So I left that meeting, immediately called my wife, and my wife had no clue any of this was going on. I know that sounds crazy, but a year and a half, I'm sleeping in the basement, things are not good, we're ships in the night, I'm not doing any of my fatherly duties, husbandly duties. I'm just, basically a waste of space. But told her, called my sister, told her I'd been lying to her, called my 2 friends, told them I'd been lying to them for the past 6 weeks, and that was it. Party was over. And my sister calls the board, and we figure out that we have, at this point now, we have to tell everybody who is in charge of the company what's going on, because now there's some potential legal ramifications, and I don't know what they're going to do. I have no clue what they're going to do. Because this guy's been to my office, this guy's been in my house, knows what my family looks like. I mean, this is crazy stuff. And so we told the board full disclosure of what was going on, and the next day I had a document about this thick from the company attorney that said, okay, you got to go get help, you got to do X, Y, and Z, or your ownership, your employment, everything is at stake. And so I guess it took me like 3 or 4 days to figure out where I was going to go. I knew I needed help. Again, back to I wanted help. And so I went to a rehab in Cincinnati, and I only went for 10 days, which blew. They wanted me to go. They wanted me to stay for the 30 days and then go for somewhere for like a year. But I stayed for 10 days, and fortunately, within that 10 days, I was able to get my aha moment, which was me meeting with this MD of addiction for 5 hours, telling him the story that I'm telling you right now. And he sits back and says, you got dealt a bad hand. You've got head injuries, you've got genetics, and you've got predisposed to all of this. And I give you a 98% chance of being in that chair at some point in your life, basically telling me that he's not surprised that this happened. And for me, that was validated the fact that this wasn't just me making bad decisions. There was a lot more at play here with addiction and the brain and the mind and me being this head injuries and all that stuff, along with bad decisions. Don't get me wrong. I mean, made some horrible decisions. But I knew that this was bigger than just me. And he said, went on and continued to say, he's like, it sounds like you've been this way ever since you were little. And so it was like, right when he said that, that was the aha moment right there. That simple statement. It was like a flashback. I went back and I came back to little Trevor, who's 6 years old, who is picking up cigarette butts that people throw away and wants to stay up until 3 in the morning when he spends the night at somebody's house, and has to order extra food because it's just over ordering over whatever. And I've been this way since I was this big. It's always been that way with me. And I got myself into a situation where there was an unlimited supply of drugs, and it was just a perfect storm, and it took me down. But even though those DEA agents were rough on me, they saved my life, as well as my sister and those 2 friends. I was saved. I'm one of the lucky ones. And the fact that I'm here almost 5 years sober telling my story is, I never would have thought it. I never would have thought I would be willing to tell my story, first of all, but that is now one of my passions. So while I'm in rehab, I'm thinking to myself, how can I get this TV, back to the Saturday Night Live thing, how can I get this fix of getting my personality out into the world? And so I thought about a podcast. And I sat on it for about 2 years, and finally my wife and a couple other people were like, dude, just give it a shot. So I started a podcast in August of 2019 called Stigmatized, and it's all about behavioral health, mental health, addiction, and anything in between. And I interview people once, I release once a week, and hear stories from people that have been through it, parents of children that have been through it, parents that have lost people, doctors, lawyers, therapists, and anything in between, to figure out how we can spread the word about mental health and addiction, just like you're doing here. And it has become an absolute passion of mine. I love it, and I'm healthy, I'm happy. My wife stayed with me. My kids are happy. Luckily enough, they were young enough that they didn't see all the stuff that their dad was doing. And now I don't have to worry, God willing, as long as I, continue to treat my illness, they'll never have to see that. And I'm very grateful. I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful to not be in jail or prison, or I'm just grateful, full of gratitude. I need to practice that more, because I still have, pity parties and woe is me, like we all do. But my life could be so much worse right now. This story could have ended in such a terrible way that, I'm just so grateful. I'm grateful for this opportunity, and we do recover.